Hi there, it's Mark, back with another Lightroom tutorial, and we're going to continue looking at masks. In the past few videos we've looked at how we can improve masks, how we can add and subtract masks. So again, I've got three pictures for us to work through. So we've got this picture of Rydal water, which should end up something like that. We've got this picture of Dunstanburgh Castle, which should end up something like that. And this picture, which I wanted a silhouette, which should end up something like that. Now this picture has got a problem because some of the masks don't quite work. This picture we've built on a few little radial filters and such to suggest there's a sun somewhere in the sky. And on this picture we've brightened up the horizon and accentuated that with some lighting in the water and on the building. All little tweaks to edit your picture. And all these three pictures are in a zip file on my website, and the link is as usual down below if you want to go and grab those and play along. If you don't want to grab them and play along, then you'll have some time on your hands. What better way to use that time than to click on that subscribe button, and while you're watching this, if you think it warrants it, give it a like, leave any comments and questions, let me know how you get on with your edits. I'm going to play the titles, and then in about 8 seconds or so we'll roll our sleeves up and get cracking. See you very shortly. Okay, so picture one, this is roughly where we're going to get to. It probably won't end up being the same. What I have done here is made the light in the valley a little bit stronger and reflected that change on the water, complemented a stronger light in the background by darkening the tops of some of the hills and some of the leading edges here, and made the house a little bit more prominent. But let's click reset. First thing I want to do here is straighten this, so crop tool, spirit level, straighten that up, and I like letterbox landscape, so I'm going to bring that down, bring that up a little bit. Okay, so while we're doing this, this is essentially not how you would edit this. It might not even be how I'll edit this again. It's about teaching us various things to do with masks and building up with masks. Now, the first thing I want to do is add a little bit of light into the valley, or the sky behind the valley. So I'm going to put a radial gradient on there. Something like that. With full feather on, we don't want that, so full feather on, and I'm going to lift up the exposure a little bit, put a bit of yellow into it, and bring the highlights up a little bit. But what I don't want it to do is to be anywhere other than what's in the sky. So how can I do that? I can intersect this mask with the sky. So if you hold down your option key if you're on a Mac, or an alt key if you're on a PC, then the add and subtract become intersect. Click on intersect with sky. So where does the sky meet our radial gradient? It meets it there. I'm quite happy with that now. Switch the overlay off and switch that effect off and on. You can see how I've put that lightness in there. Now I want to reflect that here, but before I do that, I want a vignette. So let me show you what I'm after here. I'm after, in my effects vignette, I'm after a vignette which will come in from here and here, but I don't want the vignette at the top. Let's do an extreme. So I'm interested in producing this sort of effect on the bottom, but not on the top. So how do I go about doing that? Let's go back in and add another radial gradient. And let's do it about here. Like so. I'm going to unfeather it just for the moment to demonstrate this. Now, I want to invert it. The feathering's nothing to do with this, so let's invert it. And you can see now how it's going to be these edges. This helps me, doing that helps me define what I want to do. I'm going to have to zoom out here. Zoom out a little bit more. Bring this down. Something like that. Now let's put the feather back where it should be. But when I put the feather back where it should be, notice how we've got a lot more coming in from the top. So let us subtract now everything above the water using a linear gradient. Now if I drag a linear gradient down, if I want to keep it horizontal, I press my shift key first and I just drag that down like so. Let's come back to fit onto the screen and let's decrease the exposure. And also take some of that feather out. And now before and after. There, we've got this darkness there. But I want to get some of this yellow reflected in here. So let's add another linear gradient. Oops, sorry. So let's add another radial gradient and put this one somewhere matching this valley here. Possibly a bit narrower. But again, I don't want anything above the water. So subtract linear gradient, hold my shift key, drag that down. And now I can just lift the exposure ever so slightly on that and put the yellow in that we put in the sky. Just a little touch of it. So backslash key for before and after. That's where we've got to. How do we accentuate the tops of the hills? Well, let us use a brush, local adjustment brush, with that feather will probably do, and that size looks okay. Auto mask, I've got the density quite low, and I start inside the line of the hill and bring it down. It's spilled over there, it shouldn't have, we'll come back to that. Inside the line of the hill, auto mask should stop that from happening. Inside there, accentuate that line and accentuate that line coming in. So I've got some of the lines sweeping in, slightly darkened off and across the top of there. Let us fix this bit here. So if I hold my Option key on a Mac, Alt key on a PC, it becomes a minus. So my brush is now a removal brush, and I'll just go over the top and get rid of that spill. Okay, having done that, let's bring the exposure in and just darken that off just a little bit. It looks a lot, but then my density was very low, so I'm just doing that in like that. And finally, to finish this picture off, another local adjustment with a brush, and I want to probably brighten it about a stop. I can always alter this afterwards. The size is quite okay, and I'm literally just going to draw a line right across the middle around the house like so, and back over it again. What does that look like? That's where I've done that. Notice it's very faint because our density is quite low, allowing me to paint over it several times in order to brighten it up a little bit. And I'm going to increase the exposure just a little bit more. And I'm going to call it a day on that, before and after. So using some radial gradients and linear gradients will create that effect, and the rest was done with brushes. Next, we have got this, which started life like that. So let's see what we'll do here. Again, this is about using brushes and masks. So firstly, I don't want that much sky in, so I've gone into crop. This will not end up as you've just seen it before, by the way, because I don't think I would ever edit anything purposely the same way twice, unless it was good luck rather than good management. Okay, let's get a radial gradient in here, because I want to darken the sky. Not yet picking sky, and I'm going to drag it out quite a lot so I can see the spread of the gradient. And now I'll just shift it back up So I've got that nicely coming in from the top and then disappearing before it gets anywhere near Dunstable Castle. I'm just going to bring exposure down and highlights down. And I'm going to put a little bit of warmth in there. Okay, I want to suggest there's some sort of sun in here. So let's put a radial gradient in. Somewhere like there. And let's just pick highlights up a little bit. And a bit of yellow. Not a lot. Exposure up a touch. And then let's add another one. Bit smaller, and I'm going to pick the feather up a bit more on that one, exposure up a little bit, and a little bit more yellow in there again, suggesting the sun. Now I want to reflect the fact the sun is there down on here, so I'm actually going to see what I can do with a brush. Get it quite large, go easy on the density. Put some of that yellow in, a little bit of exposure in, and there seems to be a natural line down here if you can see that, so I'm going to use that as where I want this division. It's because the hill actually slightly comes over, so I'm just going to use that to lift this side and just paint in there. O for overlay. Spilled it in the castle, but that doesn't matter. Okay, let's stop with those for the moment and let's just have a bit of basic editing. So overall I want the exposure up a touch. I want to lift the shadows ever so slightly, but I do want to put some clarity in to bring out some of the texture, because clarity is like a contrast of texture, and I want a little bit of a vignette. But as before, I don't want that vignette in the sky. Okay, didn't like that. So let us go now and zoom out. Create a radial gradient. Invert it to there. This is the bit I'm interested in. Squish it a bit. And then subtract with a linear gradient. Like so. Fit the screen. And let's just drop the exposure. And I've got that vignette coming in from the bottom left and the bottom right, but not on the top. Now let's have a look at that sky. The purpose of doing this is twofold as well. It's really to show you don't just have to use one mask. I know that's very obvious. You don't have to use one mask, but you can approach masks 1, 2, 3, 4 masks on the same thing. Now this sky has leaked into the castle and we don't want that, so I'm going to quickly do a trick which I showed in a previous video. So just follow me through if you're following along and haven't seen this trick. If you want to know more about the trick, I've got a whole video on it which I'll link above now. And that trick is subtract from our sky the sky. And you can see some purple still. That was the leakage. Now invert and you get the sky back but without the leakage. Now I've got that. I'm going to bring the highlights down and put some contrast in that sky, some contrast of texture, some clarity. So now you can start to see we've got our sun of type effect behind the cloud coming through, reflected some of that same color onto the grass, and I now just want to pick up Dunstable Castle itself. So let us go and select an object and see what it does like this. What I like about the object tool is you don't have to be precise at all. Look at that. What will it do? That's not bad. There we go. And let's lift the shadows up a little bit on the castle and put a bit of clarity in. Okay, I'm calling it there. So before and after with a backslash key. And now to the main thing. I chose this picture because it fails to mask properly. Certainly on my setup, it might not for you, but let's have a go. I want to make this a complete silhouette. So what have I got to choose from? I've got subject. I want to make all this dark. Clearly that is not the subject. I don't know what Lightroom's thinking of, so let's Control Z that out. I've got background. Nope, Control Z. When you're selecting background, it is the opposite of subject as far as masking is concerned, but neither of them helped. Let's try sky. Okay, that's not so bad, but it has leaked. What if I invert the sky? Yes. So there you go. If we go back to some of the things I've been trying to show you over the past few videos on masks, it's not just about the one mask, it's about what if you invert it? What if you combine it with other masks? How else could we actually do this? That looks much better. So everything bar the sky. Now let us take the exposure down quite a bit to get that dark silhouette. And now let's select a new sky. Now what we don't want, we went to great lengths to actually get a good edge. We don't want this leakage. So let's do that trick again. So subtract the sky from the sky. And then on this one here, sky 2, we invert. Much better. And now we can actually play with this. So I'm going to put a bit of yellow in the sky and bring the highlights down to get some of the texture back into the clouds. Bit of clarity in there as well. And I think I might just want to crop this as well. Just like so. So I've got this S coming all the way through from more or less bottom corner to top corner. There you are. I'm quite happy with that. Hope you enjoyed that. I hope you clicked on the subscribe button. I hope you clicked on the like button. I hope you ask any questions if you've got any questions and comments. Likes definitely get noticed by YouTube. I'm on my way to 900 subscribers now. Not many to go. It'd be wonderful if this video actually took me through that mark. And then you know what? In future videos I can pester all new viewers to say, come on, get me over the 1000. That's it. It is 12 minutes past 1 on Friday the 12th of April, and I think that's time for a beer, which is in the fridge waiting for me. Catch you later.